Good evening. My name is Jennifer Preble. I am the Saco School Board Chair. I'm calling the meeting to order on this Wednesday, August 9th, 2023. Would you please join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? All right, moving on to item 2 of the agenda this evening. Item 3, approval of school board meeting minutes dated July 12th, 2023. Do I have a motion? School board member Truman.
I move we approve the school board meeting minutes dated July 12th, 2023.
Second.
I have a motion by school board member Truman, seconded by school board member Johnston. Discussion? Seeing that there's no discussion, roll call vote. School board member Archie?
Yes.
School board member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School board member LaFortune?
I abstain since I was away that meeting.
Okay. School board member Gale?
Yes.
School board member Truman?
Yes.
School board member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 6-0 with 1 abstention. Moving on to item 4, which is adjustments to the agenda. I do see there is an adjustment for the multilingual and homeless student enrollment update that will be added under new business item I. Any other further adjustments to the agenda? All right. Moving on to item 5 this evening, correspondence. I did not receive any correspondence. Is there any other correspondence that was received? All right. Moving on to item 6, public session. Please feel free to come before the board and state your name and address for the record and have 3 minutes to speak. Seeing that no one is seeking recognition, we will move on to item 7, superintendent's report. Superintendent Ray?
All right, good evening, everybody. Hope you're all doing well. Good to see everybody after we've had a little bit of a missed meeting because of the summer schedule. Several items to report tonight. First and foremost, big thank you to custodial staff who are working hard in sometimes tougher conditions because cleaning floors and waxing floors when you have high humidity and a lot of rain is not a lot of fun because of drying time. And then once we seem to move through that rain portion of the summer, we went to heat. But they're moving along with our schools, getting them ready and prepped for the start of the school year. We have the rec is kind of moved out so that we can focus on those last pieces to be ready for opening day. Administrators and staff have spent a lot of time hiring to try to fill positions, ed tech positions, custodians, teachers. We've been very lucky throughout the summertime to only have a couple of those that we've had to open, but that is moving in a positive direction. We've asked parents at home or members of the public to think about making sure that you've updated all transportation information for your student and that you're registered for bus right. Always the first couple of days of school, the most challenging pieces. Typically transportation is we get used to the new traffic patterns in town and people going to new locations. That'll be posted on social media. Reach out to Jeannie in the office if you have any questions about your drop off or pickup, but hoping for a smooth transition back. Jen and Carrie in the office have been working really hard on Share 911, which is our emergency software that we bought. The first piece of it has really been about trying to map and code all of our buildings to make sure that we have consistent maps so that when that software goes live, we're able to make sure that the location has a consistent pattern and people know what this means. Say, teacher's room, second floor. Sometimes buildings will have not have numbers, but they'll have places that are identified based off common terms in the school, which can't necessarily transfer to a responding officer and/or fire department. You need to have solid numbers, so we've been working on those pieces. Emergency cards are something for lockdown safety drills that are being posted in all classrooms this week. That was an initiative of ours to make sure that those are visible, ready for substitutes, easily be taken off the wall, and easily taken with you in case of an emergency in our building. A couple of things that are upcoming to be thinking about is that they have opened applications for the revolving renovations 2024 cycle, which is projects that will be all priority one, which will be school safety, ADA, those types of projects. I met with Norm from Oak Point this afternoon to kind of brainstorm what some of the items we may apply for would be. And we have some ideas of things that we hopefully will be projects that we can submit by October 31 to the DOE to get on that revolving renovation cycle. If you remember from our other projects, that's where if you're granted the award, which used to be up to $1 million per building per category, has now doubled to $2 million. That's where we would pay approximately over a 10-year bond at 0% interest in the neighborhood of 43 or 4% of that would be covered by the state, and we'd be responsible for the rest. So it's a great deal. Work that is happening this summer is we are projected to have the roof project done at SMS by the start of the school year. There's been a lot of painting at SMS. We have been working on the revolving renovation door project for Fairfield and SMS. Bleachers should be installed at SMS sometime in September. The new furniture for the library and teacher's room at SMS will arrive on August 21st and then be set up. The new furniture is in for the cafeteria and not set up yet just because that's the staging area for everything else that will come along. So there's a lot of different capital projects that are occurring this summer. Any questions?
I see no questions being raised. All right. Moving on to item number 8, Chair's Report. I don't have any major changes or updates to report this evening, so thank you. Moving on to item 9, which is staff reports. I did not see any staff reports listed in the agenda. So, moving on to item 10, Board Subcommittee meeting minutes. Policy and Personnel Committee met on 7/12/23. Those minutes are in the agenda. The next meeting was held today at 6 p.m. The agenda for that meeting is in the packet. Finance and Infrastructure Committee, our next meeting is August 23rd at 4:30 p.m. here at City Hall. Curriculum Committee, the next meeting will be August 21st at 4:30 p.m. All right. Moving on to old business, which is item 11 on the agenda this evening. I don't see any noted. Unless there's anything I'm missing, we can move on to item 12, new business. Letter A, new hires. There is a memo in the packet. Superintendent Ray?
Just be looking for approval for new hires
Okay.
for the upcoming year.
Do I have a motion? School Board Member Truman.
I move we approve the nomination of Wendy Free, one-year art teacher at SMS, Alex Silver, French teacher at SMS, Louis Kern, humanities teacher at SMS, Jocelyn Bowden, resource teacher at Young, and Gina Lucas, BCBA, and issue a contract for the 2023-2024 school year.
Second.
I have a motion by School Board Member Truman with a second by School Board Member LaFortune. Discussion? School Board Member Gale.
Just a quick question and following up on last month's meeting. I noticed that there's a lot more ed tech positions in this memo than there usually is? And is that a function of all the outreach that we're doing and the various job fairs, or kind of how do you explain that? And then do we expect that to continue to last as we move month to month?
I think a lot of it is looking at the turnover that tends to happen in those positions. One, this being closer to August where you're typically hiring a lot of those positions, people who leave the positions and move quickly, you know, in those hourly wage positions, you have some turnover. And so we're really working hard. Also, we didn't have that second meeting, so you kind of have a larger agenda of hiring because you've had 5 weeks or 4 weeks since the last meeting.
Any further discussion or questions? All right. Seeing that no one else is seeking recognition, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. And I believe there is a possible second motion. School Board Member Truman?
Are we referring to the resignations?
Is there a motion possibly needed for the stipends?
Correct.
Oh,
Yeah, there's a
sorry.
second one in there.
I missed that one. I move we approve the stipend positions for the 2023-2024 school year for Sandra Titcomb for the Burns RTI coordinator.
So I have a motion by School Board Member Truman. Do I have a second?
Second.
I'm sorry, who was that second? Is School Board Member Archie? Discussion?
Can I amend that real quick?
As long as School Board Member Archie is willing to remove his second.
I just have to add a little piece on there at the end.
Okay.
Yeah, I'll
Okay.
revoke it.
Amendments?
Yeah, I move we approve the stipend nomination of Sandra Titcomb, Burns RTI coordinator, and issue a stipend contract for the 2023-24 school year.
Okay. I have an amended motion by School Board Member Truman. Do I have a second?
I'll second.
School Board Member Archie, all right.
I didn't catch it either.
That's okay. Is there any further discussion or amendments? All right, moving on to roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right. Now we can move on to, I believe, item B, which is resignations. There is a memo in your packet this evening for resignations. Do I have a motion? School Board Member Truman.
I move we accept the resignation of Lucy Mudford, BCBA, effective immediately.
Second.
I have a motion by School Board Member Truman, seconded by School Board Member Johnston. Any discussion? All right, see there's no one seeking recognition. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right. Moving on to item C this evening, which is under number 12, school construction presentation and update. Superintendent Ray and I believe Oak Point.
Okay, so we had planned a couple of months ago to invite Oak Point here to the meeting to give us an update of everything that is happening, new construction. We've made a lot of progress in the last couple of months, even though it seems like we're not moving forward, because one of the things that Rob will talk to you about is traffic permit. But they're here tonight to show us, the public and the board, some of the recent designs and update us on the project. So I'll turn it over to Rob from Oak Point.
Thank you, Jeremy. So that sums it up. We're going to just talk to you about where we've been and where we're going, and I'll talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing. Jonah DeWaters will talk more about the technical pieces of the traffic movement permits and all the other things we've been working on. And Sarah will talk about the floor plans we've been working on, and Norm will talk about whatever he wants to, whenever he wants to. And we'll try to keep it to the 3 minutes that you offered to the public before. So as you know, it's the Claire site that was chosen was pretty much the only site that worked in Saco, and it's turned out to be a very, very nice site, but it's had a lot of traffic considerations we've had to deal with, being near and on Route 1. Thank you. So this is the site, the layout. The main way in is off of the industrial park, but the buses will be coming in from Route 1. If you look carefully, there's teachers and staff parking up on the north end, and the parking for parents is down on the south end, and there's plenty of queuing space in case there's more parents that should be dropping kids off or dropping kids off instead of the buses. The buses will go into the upper loop lot. The building on the right-hand side is the elementary school, 1 through 5, two-story building. On the left is the primary school, pre-KK, and they have a good close proximity between the two, and the other piece of the design is that the classroom wings are on the east-west axis for both schools, so we can control the daylight, so you don't have glare in the classrooms, and you can bring natural light into the classrooms. That's just a blow-up of the same thing.
One other thing that I just want to mention, we're still working on the exterior design of both the playground areas. We're looking at having 2 playground areas within this school, elementary play 1, which is in this lower right-hand section here, and then kind of off the page up here is elementary playground 2. So our landscape architect, Allison, is working on the layout with that. We're going to be having a meeting in September with a group to discuss that playground space, and then also some of these internal spaces within the building that you can see here. On the elementary school, there's an internal courtyard right here, and on the primary school, we have a courtyard that's closed on one end with a gate, but open to the classroom spaces here, and then on this side here. And there's also a courtyard space that comes in between the 2 buildings, and a primary playground over here. So lots of exterior spaces that are still going to be further designed and developed, but just wanted to point those out as well. So this is a floor plan of the elementary school. This is the first floor. As Rob said, this is a 1 through 5 building. As you come in the building right here is the main entranceway. We have a secure entry. The front part here, the vestibule, is for students to come in, and then above it, there's a visitor vestibule that's separated so that visitors can come in, check in with the main office, be secure in that vestibule, and then be allowed in once they've been vetted. They can come directly into the office. If you look at the color coding, everything that's in orange is an administrative space. So this here on the main floor is the admin wing, and then we have the nurse on the other side. The gray area space here, we have a large gathering lobby space that is large enough for the number of children that will be coming in here, and it also provides a grand stair in the center here that allows the students to be able to split off and go in different directions to go to their respective classroom wings. On the lower half, in the yellow, everything in yellow is in allied arts, so here we have a block that can be shut off after hours for after-school for the rec department, but this houses art, music, and the gymnasiums. The state has allowed us to have a gymnasium that's sized properly for an elementary school, and there's a proposal for some local space to make it a middle school-sized gym. So that's what that hatch is right there, the additional space to make it a middle school-sized court. And then we have another space that the state is giving us here, which is a multi-purpose room, which allows that to be a space more for primary use and things like that, but it opens up with a door that can also be used for a stage as well, so very flexible. As we go down the center spine of the building, mostly this whole rectangular block in the front is areas that are allied arts, the cafeteria, things like that, and then the back of the building is where the classroom wings are. So really a lot of safety points to be able to close off those wings and the rest of the building and have different parts locked off for different types of events that may happen after evening. We have 2 entrances into this building. One is the one that I just mentioned. The secondary one is up here at the top, and that's where the bus students will come in. It'll be a space that has staff out there having the children come, so it is a manned space during bus drop-off times. As you come down the wings, the one on the upper part, this is the 3 through 5 wing, and then on the other side we have the 1 through 2 wing, and then we have a connector that goes in between. All of the classroom wings are 2-story, and then the connector piece over to the right-hand side is single-story. So here you can see the second floor. This is 3, 4, 5 up here, second grade up here. Anything in green is special ed, so we have that filtered throughout the whole building and spread out. We have small group rooms that are spread out. We have breakout spaces. We have a proposed outdoor classroom space here on the roof for students to go out with their teachers for a class outside. And then we also have other support spaces. The other thing that you can see with the orange, we do have administrative spaces sprinkled throughout the whole building as well, so that is very well monitored throughout the building and not just having all of the administrative staff in the main office. Here's a typical blow-up of a classroom area, so you can see with the furnishings, we do have on this center classroom here a movable wall that opens up so that we have kind of a space here that can be used for a multitude of different things. If the numbers work out, we can open that up and other students can come into that space and use it. The little green spaces are small group breakout rooms. We have some chill spaces, things like that, staff workrooms on every floor, and bathrooms. Here's a conceptual elevation of the building. We're proposing looking at materials such as ground face block, possibly some brick, nishiha, which is a wood-looking product, and really trying to break down the massing of the building. It's a large building, so if you look at the elevations, we're trying to look at taking objects, like say this one right here is the gym, so how do we break down the visual of the building and make it look like smaller parts of the building so it's not repetitive or overwhelming. All of the spaces that are in the building, we're trying to get natural light to any space that a student and a staff member will be working in. Here's the front entrance on the lower part. Right here is that main entrance that I said is the parent drop-off one with the secure entry, and then this door over to the side is the bus entry. We also have a patio space that's going to be on this left-hand space here so that we have outdoor dining as well, and we're still in discussions with the state on how far they'll allow us to take that. Here's some 3D renderings, again, conceptual. We're still working on the design for this. We're trying to bring in colors of the Saco blue and natural tones into the space because it is going to be a wooden environment, so we're trying to bring that biophilic feeling into the outside of the building and the inside as well. We're looking at having the 2 buildings, the primary and the elementary school, will have a different look to them, but we're trying to have them complement one another. The elementary will be more of a smaller scale building, will feel more like a home-like environment for small children. It'll be a nicer transition for them, coming from a home environment to a building that's a little bit more of like a home kind of a look, and then going to the larger elementary school. So this view on the top is looking sort of from the bus drop-off, which is here. Oop, sorry. The middle one is a view from the parent drop-off, so you have a really good view of where the main entry is, and then connectivity over to the primary school. And this is, the lower is an image from looking from one of the playground spaces back at the school. The second floor plan that we have today is the primary school, set up similarly. We have a center main entrance with a secure lobby and all of the admin in the front. In this school, we broke down into smaller units for the students because they are so young and can be overwhelmed by size. So we have 4 wings that happen in each of these, breaking them down into small groups of 6 and 5 classrooms, and then again supported by special ed nearby. And then the yellow is all of the allied arts. So very compact floor plan. And both of them, and I didn't mention this on the elementary school, we do have areas for future expansion if that ever has to happen. We do have areas here for the outdoor courtyards that can be fed out by either this center spine here or from each of the classroom wings. So each of them is their own little kind of community on each side. It will be fenced for security, but we'll still have connectivity to that center courtyard that connects to the elementary school. One of the things that we have in this building, there's a little kind of stage courtyard space here as well with a little stage and a multi-purpose space, so there can be some small presentations that happen here as well. Here's again an enlarged plan of what that would look like with the furniture. Each of the wings has this open allied arts area that can be used for library, and then one can be set up for STEM projects and things like that, but a very flexible space that's open. So as you come down the hallways, there'll be a lot of natural light flooding into this entire space for the children. Here are again some conceptual elevations of that building. So as you can see, a much shorter building. This is only a single story. We have a pitched roof on this building to make it seem more of residential. We're doing some clear stories up above to bring more natural light into the center of the building, and then also some light towers that are coming in, as you can see, these circular pieces that will bring more natural light down into the center of the building. And here's some perspectives of that space. The middle one is that front entry as you're coming around the corner of the parent drop-off. And the top one is looking from the bus entry. So the bus entry will come in a separate entrance as well, and you're also looking into the back of the multi-purpose cafeteria on that backhand space. And the lower is from the back of the building. And that's what we have. Are there any questions that anyone has about the buildings or the plans at all? Yes.
And maybe we're not here yet, but does the positioning of the buildings lend itself to solar on the rooftop?
Yes, we are looking at the orientation for best sun exposure, so that is, and also having enough support on the roof to support photovoltaics, so that is part of the design as well. Not necessarily the panels themselves, but the roof load and the orientation to house them. Anybody else? Good? Thank you.
We're good in that sense.
So just very, very quickly, we are planning on solar. The east-west orientation is really good for daylighting in schools, but it's also really good for the PV arrays that we'd be able to put on the roofs. And we're planning on using geothermal for the school itself, and we found a source of federal funding for that, because the state typically doesn't pay the additional costs, so we're working on that. And so we're trying to have it so it'll fit really well into the site and meet all our energy needs and be a great place for the kids. So, but again, it's very conceptual. Jeremy hasn't even seen the circular parts that we stuck in the middle of the primary school. But it's all very conceptual. We've been spending an awful lot of time on site permitting and in particular the traffic. So I'll let Jonah talk about that just for a minute. I don't want to. It can be very lengthy and rather boring, but we're trying to get through that whole process with the state, with DOT, and with DOE. We actually have a meeting with them collectively, which is I've never seen that done, but that's going to be done next week with the Department of Education and the Department of Transportation, trying to work out different ways to do things. It's not just for our project, but for school projects in general. This was just announced today. So we're working very hard at that, and we just want to make sure that you didn't think we were forgetting the school. We need to work on, I think that Sarah and Norm and the rest of our staff has worked very closely with Megan and the staff here in Saco, but we need to do an awful lot of work moving forward this fall. The elevations still need an awful lot of work. It's pretty much just vanilla right now. We're starting to add some color and add some materials, but we're really not to that point, but I just also didn't want it to just look like a pure massing model. So that's where we are. Do you have any questions about the traffic permits, Jeremy, or do you want to talk about that at all? Or if we talked long enough?
Well, I think it would be great to touch on that just because we know that that's the piece that stops us from going to the state board is until we have that permit
Right.
authorized by the DOT. That's what is between us and the state board site approval.
Right, yeah, we've all been working very hard. Jeremy and Megan have been working with us too, and it's been very, it's been the most time-consuming site permitting project that we've had ever. But it's mostly because of the criteria that the DOT has been requesting or demanding of the project. But if DOT asks for it, then the state pays for it. If Saco asks for it, then Saco gets to pay for it. But right now, it's the Department of Transportation is requiring a lot of things happening on and near the site. Is that enough, or do you want some more detail?
I think just if there's any questions about that permitting process or where we're at, I certainly can't speak to it all because it's above my head, but that's what Jonah's here for.
School Board Member Gale, I think you may have a question.
I was just going to ask, could you maybe just highlight maybe 2 or 3 of the biggest items and then the kind of cost implications if it's the state versus us, or like what kind of elaborate maybe just a little bit on high level?
Sure, yeah. So first off, as an update on where we are, there's kind of 2 parts to this. The first part is identifying the offsite improvements and putting together a report that's called the Traffic Movement Permit Application. That's been submitted to the DOT and is being reviewed. Part B is making sure that we capture what those offsite improvements are going to be and include them in the project budget as we move forward. The offsite improvements that have been identified kind of fall into 3 categories. You've got pedestrian improvements offsite improvements that are going to need to happen prior to construction, and then additional study after the building is completed, because the traffic, especially on this project, everything's so dynamic and there's so many other unrelated items that all kind of play together. So the DOT will work really closely with us and our traffic engineer to help get through some of this, but the biggest offsite improvement right now that we're looking at that we're working real closely on is the intersection of Route 1 and Millbrook Road, and making sure that the intersection can accommodate the changes in the way traffic's flowing through there. I don't have anything real specific right now about what's going to happen at that intersection because we're still working on it with the traffic engineer and the DOT, but that's the biggest challenge right now. It's also worth noting, at this stage in the game, what we're trying to do is understand what the cost is going to be, not necessarily flush out the final design and have every I dotted and every T crossed, but make sure that we know how much it's going to cost and we can carry that forward in the project budget.
Any further questions?
Just as it relates to, and this may be another, we're not quite there yet, but as it relates to the diagrams that were shared, I know we've done some preliminary, like large format prints that we've put around, just to kind of get some, concepts out into, the space here in City Hall and a couple of the schools. Are we planning to do something similar with these? Or is it just too early for that type of thing?
Yeah, I think it's too early. What I'd like to try to do is when school gets back in session, which seems like tomorrow, is start talking to the public a little bit more. And the work that's been done has not been in a vacuum. We've done an awful lot of really good work doing the floor plans and taking the information that we got from the public forums last year and trying to incorporate that as much as we can into the school. But I want to get some reaction from directly from the teachers, and Sarah's scheduling things with Meg as far as getting together with the teachers. So very soon, I think we can start doing at least the floor plans again, because they're in really good shape, and the state has been very receptive to the floor plans. We have a good breakdown on the elementary school, what the state will support, and the additional things that Saco has requested. That will be broken down and give you some better costing on that. The primary school, the pre-KK, is totally locally funded. So that's another thing we'll be looking at. But I think I really can't wait till the staff gets to see where we are when they get back and get the help out after they get settled in. So yes, a little bit too early, but not by much.
Any further questions for Oak Point? All right, thank you very much for your presentation. All right, moving on to item 12, letter D, student enrollment projections. Superintendent Ray? Oh, I'm sorry, there was one more.
I'm just closing this
Oh,
down.
you're closing it up. Okay.
Sorry.
Sorry about that. That's okay. Superintendent Ray, so sorry. Continue.
So just at this point in time of where we are on August 9th, just updating you on class sizes, enrollment projections. You'll see a piece that has added to the agenda about our ML population and where we think that we will be numbers-wise. Based off where we were last year, we're up about 35 students from the close of the school year. Sometimes that can be a little bit difficult in the fact that a lot of times you know the students who are coming, but sometimes you don't know the students who are leaving, because the trigger to that piece is another school department asking for those records on that. In addition, you also have an additional amount of students at pre-K that we're going to be able, we were at 116, and we're going to be at 128 this year that we'll be able to house in that program.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? All right. Thank you for the update. Moving on to item 12, letter E, estimated year-end balances. Superintendent Ray?
Oops, sorry. I do want to just clarify, these are estimated year-end balances as there are still items that you can get in from, say, power supply companies or items like that by the end of the year, and these are clearly unaudited because that hasn't happened yet. But when you look at total expenditures in the surplus, you're looking at, we're estimating $550,000 remaining out of about a $48 million budget. And then our revenues exceeded revenues by $263,000. A big piece of that being the $206,000 that we were able to apply for the increase in ML students midway through the year. and they sent some additional revenue out that way. So as we look at a bottom line, we're estimating around $813,000 in remaining funds. When you look at fund balance from FY '22 to what we used for revenues in FY '23, we had $275,000 of that fund balance put towards the budget. This year, we had $300,000 plus another $131,000 in capital projects. We're estimating a fund balance over the last couple of years, after paying back the $1 million that we owed the city, at $1.3 million.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? All right, moving on to item 12, letter F, Adult Education Shared Director. There is a memo in your packet. Superintendent Ray?
So as we look at currently, Saco shares an adult education director with Old Orchard Beach. And that has been something that's been in place prior to withdrawal. And Dave Durkee has been the adult education director of that. Looking at future budgets and programming that we have in place between the two communities, started having a conversation with John Suddy, the superintendent in Old Orchard. And Old Orchard's the group RSU 23 that holds the contract for the adult education director. In talking with Dave and Dave Durkee, who is the director, we are proposing that there is a shared position of an adult education director between three communities of Saco, Old Orchard, and Biddeford. One is that hoping to expand the offerings that are available to the public, especially when you look at some of the high interest areas for the public, whether that be from yoga to using more of the vocational center for, say, small engine or welding or plumbing. One of the things that has happened during the course of last year is in Biddeford, because it's a larger adult education piece, we wound up picking up, because of the history with some of the ELL speaking adults, we picked up all of the programming for the new neighbors in the hotel room because it was just a natural fit. And so looking at how our communities interact that way, how we use buildings, we are putting forward this option as a one-year piece to see if there is some future possibilities in greater programming savings. Obviously, it does bring a savings to all three communities, which is highlighted in the packet, that this would be a $26,000 savings for Saco taxpayers.
Questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member Johnston?
Actually, I think he answered most of my questions. I was going to make the motion.
Oh, well then by all means.
But if there are questions, I want to stop that.
Just thought I'd ask that first. Anybody specifically? All right, I would say, go for it.
Thank you. I move we approve the cost-sharing agreement for the Director of Adult Education between Saco/Old Orchard Beach and Biddeford Adult Education for 1 year from August 14th, 2023 to June 30th, 2024.
Second.
I have a motion by School Board Member Johnston with a second by School Board Member Archie, if I heard correctly. Okay. Any discussion here? School Board Member Johnston.
Thank you. I think that the information that Superintendent Ray has supplied us with shows that it is a good idea from a financial standpoint, but I would like to speak on behalf of Dave Durkee as having been an excellent director for a number of years for Saco Old Orchard Beach. And I think he would be very competent to take this on as additional, he's very highly motivated, in my experience, because I have known him for a while in the capacity that he's been serving as director in Saco Old Orchard Beach. And I think he's highly motivated. He's always looking for the newest, the best practices, does a lot of research, and I think he'd be extremely competent to take this on. So I just wanted to express that.
Any further discussion? All right, seeing there's no further discussion being brought up, moving on to roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Moving on to item G on our agenda. It is first reading of policies. We have policy GBI, staff gifts and solicitations. Policy GCF, professional staff hiring. Policy GCGA, substitute teachers. Policy GDA, support staff positions. Policy GDF, support staff employment. Policy GCOA. Policy GCOC. Policy GP, earned paid leave. Policy GBP-R, earned paid leave procedure. Policy GCSA, employee use of school-issued computers, devices, and the internet. Policy GCSA-R, employee computer and internet rules. Do I have a motion? School Board Member Johnston.
I move we approve the first reading of policies GBI, GCF, GCGA, GDA, GDF, GCOA, which I'd just like to mention is supervision and evaluation of professional staff, and GCOC, evaluation of administrative staff, GBP, GBP-R, GCSA, GCSA-R.
Second.
I have a motion by School Board Member Johnston with a second from School Board Member Truman. Any discussion on these policies? Seeing that no one is seeking further discussion, roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes myself. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Moving on this evening to item H, second readings of policies. The policies are GAB, job descriptions, GBB, staff involvement in decision-making, policy GBG, bloodborne pathogens, policy GBG-R, bloodborne pathogens exposure control plan, policy GCSB, employee use of social media, and to strike GBF, employee work-related injuries. School Board Member Johnston.
I move we approve the second reading of policies GAB, GBB, GBG, GBG-R, and GCSB, and strike policy GBF.
Second.
I have a motion by School Board Member Johnston with a second from School Board Member Truman. Any further discussion? All right, moving on to roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. All right, moving on to item 13 this evening, other information. I did not have any
Chair.
other. Oh, yes, go ahead.
There was an adjustment to the agenda.
Oh, yes, I stand corrected. There was an adjustment to the agenda. I apologize. Going back to item 12, letter I, multilingual and homeless student enrollment update. Superintendent Ray.
Okay, You received a memo in the packet from Meg Parker, so it was a copy to me, of just basically looking at our historical student demographics and then estimates for the upcoming school year. And as you can see, in the fall of last year, we had 164 students, ML students, that were on our October 1 count. And now our projection is 215 students in that population. Again, I do caution that sometimes we know who's coming but don't always know who has left yet. And with that piece, just looking at some of the things that we're engaged in, from culturally responsive teaching, optional book club, looking at expanding the talking points, messaging service to all Saco families, which is a vital tool we use. But the big piece would be the expanding staff. We currently have a teacher at Burns School that's 0.8 that we would like to move to full-time, and then adding an additional multilingual teacher to address the pre-K2 student enrollment. We feel that that's necessary. Now, when you think about those pieces, also remember that there was the additional subsidy that came in that we were able to apply for when you have a population growth of greater than 10% in this area, which it appears at this point in time we will again. So I should be able to recapture some of those funds to fund those positions.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray? School Board Member Gale.
It's just a question on the homeless student totals. And kind of what are your thoughts on why those have grown so much over the past 2 years?
Well, the first one on the homeless student is that remember that all students who are at the hotel are also classified as homeless in that scenario. So that's the big jump, is that the students that are there. They're also an ML student in a new neighbor, but that's also classified as homeless status because of their pathway into the country. I think the other piece is that you see a lot of more families are needing the option to double up. And so that would definitely put one family into a homeless category. We have a lot of students who, during the school year, we have some hotels that open their doors to winter rentals. That puts people into that category. And then I think just generally looking around at our climate for housing costs, people are struggling. And so we see that reflected in our students and the families that we serve. And it's a major challenge.
Any other questions for Superintendent Ray?
Superintendent Ray.
School Board Member Archie.
Do we have a more accurate number as to how many students are not part of the hotel? I'm just curious if there is an upping trend with, as is Saco residents.
So what I can tell you is that there is the hotel piece, but just the other piece that in both communities that I'm working in is there is a general upward trend in ML residents moving into some of the vacancies in town. I'm up 100 plus over there just in 1 year's time as well. And so I do think that you are seeing some families who have come through way of the hotel being able to settle and find some living situations here that allows them to stay. I think that you also look at, while we very much are concerned about what a price of an apartment is to rent in Saco, it still is cheaper than Portland. And so you have some of that migration out of Portland, South Portland, and you have an ability that we have public transportation into Portland. So we are a community that, can serve the public transportation back into the Portland area. We're also close to a hospital. And so you have some of those service center pieces that would make our community enticing.
School Board Member Gale.
Also, just on the multilingual staff to student ratio, is there like a preferred ratio for that?
So
What's best practice for that?
So the state does not have a preferred ratio. Ideally, you're in that 1 to 30 to 35 range. And again, some of the challenges that you have is finding certified staff is one of those. Luckily, the DOE announced some places where we can get emergency certificates, this being one of those. But I do think that, as I cautioned the board in Biddeford tonight and the board here I'd caution tonight is that while that number is here today, remember that last fall when projections of how many students were going to come versus what it really turned out to be is quite different. The other piece that doesn't necessarily go into this is level too. The level of English that the student has is very different if we have a student who's level 4 on the WIDA and is more on monitor status. They still count as in our student counts versus a newcomer who has limited or no English. The piece where we're really seeing, and this is, again, both communities, is younger students at that pre-KK population is where we're seeing a major growth. I think that even with these additions, you may hear from us again in the fall once things shake out a little bit.
Superintendent Ray?
Yeah.
I appreciate your answer. I was actually referring to the homeless student population. Do we have an accurate number of the homeless number aside from the hotel students?
No, because what can be very difficult, as I said about the true homeless population is that, one, you have people that don't necessarily inform you of the living situation. Sometimes that's information people don't want to share. Much of that is a double-up situation. But it's not uncommon for us to see, especially in the early parts of the school year, people who may be living in some of the campgrounds until they move into their winter rental. And sometimes that winter rental can be in a different community. But once you have received homeless status, that is a 12-month status that stays with you. And many times, families will use that and will work the transportation out of, if you're coming from, you may be laying your head in Buxton, but you're attending school in Saco, and we'll work with both school departments on the transportation because they typically have the same thing happening in their community. But I think when you look at the homeless number of students, and, we know that we didn't get 116 students just from the hotel last year either. That was more in the 70 range. There is a general uptick in all communities in southern Maine of homelessness. And I think that is what's hard from the school department side is we want to provide transportation and food and all those pieces. But it's not necessarily our wheelhouse either to also be a full social service agency in some of those pieces. Now, what's very interesting this year is that legislature passed a bill in the budget that, and again, I'm worried that it's not enough money, but they've allocated towards school districts $750 per homeless student that will be used by the school department, and we haven't received the guidance on how we get the money, expend the money to support things that are not necessarily textbooks and school supplies, but things like food vouchers, clothing, emergency shelter. Because at the end of the day, we can sometimes have somebody show up on 3 o'clock on Friday afternoon and say, hey, we're here and we want to register in school, but they haven't made it to general assistance yet. Or sometimes our principals have information about families that we need to act immediately on. And so whether that's either through grants, fundraising efforts, or hopefully now this stream of state dollars where we can provide some of that. It's definitely a challenge that is much bigger than just the school department. This is a community-based piece. At the same time, when you read the articles about the availability of affordable housing, that's definitely a policy decision that needs to happen above the school committee, because we don't have enough places for people to live that's affordable. Or I guess I would say that's my point of view in that.
Any further questions for Superintendent Ray?
And I just want to say, I don't think this topic is over either, and that we'll probably be updating very quickly into the school year.
All right. Any other questions? Last call. All right. Now we can move on to item 13, other information. I didn't have any, oh, stand corrected.
I just have one piece that I forgot to mention during my superintendent's report. Last year, or even the year before, a couple of staff members at Burns, Holly being one of those, wrote a grant for an outdoor classroom. And if you get an opportunity to drive by Burns School, that is almost done, minus some paint and some trim. We owe a big thank you to Jim Godbout and the Rotary Club for taking that project on and really just like stepping up to make sure that it's done. So that's it started with something that was going to be purchased, and I knew that if we showed that to Jim, Jim would have different thoughts about the longevity of something, and like always, Jim comes through to help out our students in our community and be a good addition at Burns School. Looks really good.
Can I ask, what will we do with it once we move to the new buildings?
I'm hopeful that we'll have some space at the new building and that we'll be able to stay there as well, or
Oh, okay,
I'm hoping it will be able to stay there.
yeah.
Because it's a pretty permanent structure now.
I imagine, I was thinking there's probably a good level of concrete in
Yeah,
there somewhere.
yeah, and again, you know, when you ask Jim to do something, Jim always makes sure it's gonna last, and collaborating with Ryan Sommer and Parks and Recs, I think it definitely has a place in this area of town, even as a shaded spot to go have a picnic with your family in the summertime. It's a nice addition.
School Board Member Gale.
I just put in a plug on one other item. I think it was last week or 2 weeks ago at the National Night Out event, which was terrific. In that event, I was wondering maybe for next year, given the timing of that and potentially a school construction vote, if we, as a school department, could have a booth there. It was just a fantastic event, a lot of folks, a lot of families. I think it'd be a good recruitment event. I know the Saco Police were recruiting. Obviously, it's their event, but if maybe we could partner with them for next year, I think that'd be a great event for us.
Certainly. Thank you.
All right.
Can I add one thing?
Yep, go ahead.
I just want to, I've been asked to put a little plug out there for the PTOs, that now is a good time to join PTOs for your schools, you know, collecting snacks and divvying out clink bags and that sort of thing for fundraising, and to reach out.
All right. Any other information? All right. We are moving on to item 14, executive session. There is no executive session scheduled for this evening, leaving us to item 15, which is adjournment. Do I have a motion?
So moved.
I have a motion by School Board Member LaFortune,
Second.
seconded by School Board Member Truman. I'm assuming we don't need discussion on that this evening. So moving on to roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
School Board Member Richards?
Yes.
I vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School School Board Member Truman.
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston.
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0 to adjourn. Have a great evening, and thank you so much.